Dragons in the world of Ice and Fire are very interesting to me, simply because there is still a lot of mystery surrounding them in both terms of their origin and the mechanics of their bond with Dragonriders. I was recently rereading Fire and Blood when a single line sent me down a bit of a rabbit hole regarding dragon lore. Towards the end of the Dance of the Dragons, it's suggested by Boris Baratheon King Aegon II travelled to the Reach to try and claim the unclaimed dragon Silverwing in order to replace his dead dragon Sunfire. In the end, the king was not well enough to attempt this, but this got me asking a lot of questions. Could a Dragonrider claim a second dragon if their prior dragon dies? And built off that, could a rider be bonded to multiple dragons at the same time? After reading that passage about King Aegon maybe attempting to claim a new dragon, I went back through all of the Dragonriders we know about to confirm my suspicions that each rider only ever claimed one dragon after the death of their own, and that no rider claimed multiple dragons. For the sake of this video, I'm going to be focusing on instances where the rider outlived their dragon. The first instance we have of a rider outliving their dragon is King Viserys I, who claimed Balerion the Black-Dread in 94 AC, only flying him once, and even then the old dragon only just making it back to the dragon pit. Black-Dread then died a short time later, leaving the then Prince Viserys dragonless. Viserys does not claim a new dragon after the death of the Black-Dread, and there does not seem to be any evidence that he even attempted or had any intent to do this. At this point, Viserys is still a young man, and with a claim to the Iron Throne with his closest rival, Princess Rhaenys, having her own dragon, at no point does it seem Viserys attempted to bond with one, or even to try and hatch a new one. Logically, given how a dragon could help support his claim to the throne, I think if it were possible for Viserys to be able to bond with a new dragon, he surely would have taken that opportunity. Once you get to the Dance of the Dragons, most cases where a dragon dies, their rider dies with them. However, there are 4 cases from the war where the rider outlives their dragon. Firstly, I want to get King Aegon III out of the way. It's clear he would never have the motive to want a new dragon, given his mislike and fear of them after the events he witnessed during the war. We also have Rhaenyra Targaryen, whose dragon Moondancer died fighting King Aegon and Sunfire. Again, she never gave any indication she wanted to or could bond with a new dragon. However, one argument here is that there wasn't exactly any easily accessible bondable dragons left at this point in the war, apart from much later on, some wild dragons and Silverwing. There also doesn't seem to be any evidence to suggest that she tried to hatch another egg either. So far, most of the evidence suggests that a rider cannot bond with a second dragon if their dragon had died. However, here's where it gets a little bit complicated. Both Rhaenyra and Aegon II lose their dragons before their deaths. Rhaenyra losing Syrax when Joffrey Velaryon attempts to borrow his mother's dragon in order to reach the dragon pit and save his own dragon, costing him his life, and Syrax's, who was killed by the mob attacking the dragon pit. Then you have Aegon losing Sunfire after his fight with Rhaenyra Targaryen, and Moondancer on Dragonstone, with both dragons dying as a result of the fight, but miraculously both riders surviving the fall. There is an indication in Fire and Blood that both Aegon II and Rhaenyra intended to replace their lost dragons in some way, either via bonding or hatching, or at the very least that they thought that this was possible. In Rhaenyra's case, after she abandoned King's Landing after the fall of the Dragon Pit, and when the Green's armies were closing in, she decided she needed to return to Dragonstone, wherein she would be safe and able to find a new dragon, insisting that she needed to find a dragon or all would be lost. Now, she might have been pushing to do this, knowing that it is possible, but it is also vital to remember that by this point in the war, Rhaenyra is not exactly thinking rationally, so her desperation and paranoia could lead her to attempting to claim a new dragon, even if it's in reality a hopeless task. In the case of Aegon II, in the last few days of the war after the death of Rhaenyra, with Aegon ruling in King's Landing in his own right, despite the fact that Rhaenyra was gone, there were still remnant black forces. Boris Baratheon suggested that the king travel to the Reach to claim the riderless dragon Silverwing, which the king declined. However, he did send a raven to Dragonstone, requesting they send him dragon eggs, in the hopes of hatching what he described as a new Sunfire. When Aegon declines Silverwing, it comes across as him doing so as he's not physically well enough to do it at that point, as he's still recovering from his multiple injuries. At no point does he reject the idea because it's not possible. This is compounded further when you consider he asked for dragon eggs. If he sent for them, he must have believed it was possible he could hatch and bond with a new dragon. What makes Aegon's case even more compelling is while yes, he is badly hurt and recovering during this period, he is in much more of a sound mental state than Rhaenyra when she trod a similar course. We cannot simply dismiss Aegon's actions as desperation, as the jaws of his foes closed in, as in Rhaenyra's case. So it's clear both King Aegon II and Rhaenyra both believed they could hatch or claim a second dragon. We have no evidence in canon of someone doing this, but they must have thought it was possible for a reason. However, there is one wildcard in all of this that might allude to a situation where bonding and claiming multiple dragons could be possible. In this case, not just replacing a dead dragon, but actively controlling multiple dragons at the same time. I'm of course talking about Daenerys Targaryen. In a Game of Thrones, Daenerys hatches 3 dragon eggs at the same time. However, the key difference in this case is the hatching seems to be magical in nature and not strictly the same as how dragon eggs were being hatched by Targaryens historically. Daenerys' relationship with her dragons is unlike any we've seen in Fire and Blood. She's very much she's herself and functions as the mother to the dragons. She can command all 3 dragons and they all seem comfortable around her. She does have a closer bond that seems to follow the traditional dragon bonding model, with Drogon having a deeper, almost telepathic connection and being able to fly him. It's possible that she could fly Viserys and Rhaegal in the future, but as of now, despite having that motherly connection with them, Drogon seems to be the only dragon she has claimed in the traditional sense. However, this could very well change in the future, and this connection she has with all 3 of her dragons cannot be simply dismissed in the context of the question of this video. Now, another factor to consider is how dragon bonding actually works, which could allude to the possibility of controlling possible multiple dragons. Something that has been discussed online for many years is the similarities in the way in which dragon bonding and skin changing are described. Both skills possess similar traits that suggest that perhaps they are related or function in a similar way. This idea has become even more prominent in recent years as we get more and more proof that the bond between dragon and Dragonrider uses some form of telepathy. For example, riders feeling when their dragons are hurt, or the dragons sensing the rider's intent, sometimes even on a subconscious level. If in fact dragon bonding and skin changing are linked in some way, then logic dictates that maybe, like skin changing, it would be possible to bond with multiple dragons at once. Take Varamir's 6 skins, for instance. Then again, the 2 abilities could be related without them being strictly the same. Can a Dragonrider bond with a new dragon? While the intentions and motives of characters such as Aegon II and Rhaenyra suggest it could be possible, we are yet to see any cases in lore where someone actually has done this. Daenerys is closer to it. However, I think it's possible the nature of her bond to her 3 dragons functions differently to normal cases, with her particular close bond with Drogon fitting the traditional model. I suspect we won't get an answer to this in the main books, or even Fire and Blood Part 2. I think it's one of these things that's being left as an intentional mystery. However, I do think it's possible that if George ever does expand the lore of Valyria and the Dragon Wars, I suspect this concept could potentially be explored in the future.